So let's say that you are getting to know somebody, or you're going to be meeting somebody for the first time, or you're at a social event and you're getting to know somebody. So there's a few ways you could approach it. You could kind of go with some sort of generic or general conversation that you have with them, small talk. How's the weather? What's your name? How was your week? What do you do for work? Things like that, right? And based on those types of questions, you're going to get a certain type of response, right? So the more generic your question, generally speaking, the more generic the response you may get, right? I don't know about you, but it's very often to where you go and you see somebody and you're like, hey, how's your week? And usually the response is something like, oh, busy, or it's good, everything's going well. So that's going to get one response, right? Another way you may be able to ask a question would be, anything go well this week for you? Or was there anything that didn't go so well for you this week? And then you'll start to get more of a different type of answer, right? And I think that is, in a way to kind of approach any sort of AI tool that you're using, whether that be ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever the case may be. But before I get more into that, I do want to say my name is Ryan Holguin. I am a certified project management professional. This is the practical place where we like to say where project management meets real life. So not only do I talk about project management, soft skills, technical skills, things like that here on this channel, I also enjoy sports and data. So you might find me from time to time talking about those things as well. If that is something that interests you, I would encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date on everything that I post here. But when it comes to AI, this is not going to be a video diving into the different types of prompts you can use. There's a lot of resources out there, and I feel like so many people already do that. What I do like about all the prompt videos, I've learned about them, or I learned from them, is really, for me, if you're just going in looking for a copy and paste prompt, you're going to get those. You can find that. You can look that up. Hey, what are 20 good AI prompts I can use as a marketer or as an engineer or as a copywriter or whatever, right? You can find those. And I think that there's this fear that when it comes to AI, which I think this could be, a pool of people out there, you're going to shortcut learning. You're going to shortcut the experience and the journey of learning something. You're not going to dive deep yourself. It's so easy to, look it up and ask ChatGPT, hey, what is, X thing about? What's the answer to this question, or whatever the case may be, right? You fill in the blank. But honestly, in my experience, that can be true. Like, if you really want to shortcut learning and growth, you can absolutely depend on that and use it as a crutch for growth. I don't really remember, but I imagine, and I'm just speculating here, so feel free to rebuke me in the comments if you want, that this may have been the same sort of sentiment when, Google and the internet boom happened, that folks were just thinking it's really going to shortcut the learning experience. And maybe it has in a lot of ways, and I just don't know, because I'm, more on the younger scale relative to folks that lived through that as an adult. But so I do want to acknowledge that, but I also want to say that it's really up in a micro sense. That may be true in a macro sense, but in a micro sense, it's up to you as an individual to make the conscious choice to say, do I want to learn? Do I want to, what is my goal? Do I want to learn and go through the progress of learning this thing that I'm seeking out on this chatbot or on this AI tool? Or I don't really need to learn it. I don't need to go through that experience for this specific situation, so I can just look it up. If you're going through school, I remember like when I was studying for my PMP, a lot of it was like the goal is to pass the test. So when you study to pass a test, naturally you may pick up things along the way. But in that season, the goal for me was not to learn everything there needs to be known about project management and being a project management professional. Like, I just couldn't do that in the few months I was studying for the exam. I have a video about that if you want to go watch it, as far as how I, my prep work and all that. But what I say in the video and what is true is the goal in that season was to just pass the exam. Now, that doesn't mean I was against learning everything there is to know about project management. But for this specific instance, I just needed to pass the exam. So I needed to retain, cause and effect sort of answers. If this happens, how are you going to respond? What is, the type of practice that you would implement here? Or what method or approach would you take in a situation like this? I needed to sort of understand all of those things more than, hey, I work in a marketing setting, so how do I approach everything about a marketing project management setting? Like, I didn't need to figure all that stuff out. I had a goal, and it was to pass the exam. So in the same way, when you approach ChatGPT or any AI tool, I think a good question is, so that you don't shortcut yourself from being a lifelong learner, is, to me, I believe that there is sort of a baseline of knowledge you need to have when approaching it on whatever topic you're searching. Now, there are the general searches and the queries that I, put in there. Like, I don't know something about a certain injury that my child has or how to treat something. Like, yeah, okay, I might go ask it. But my goal is not be a doctor. It's not to, go and understand everything about the medical industry. It's just to know about this specific use case of, I've got a kid that's hurt. How do I fix it? And to me, that's fine. And when it comes to work or school, even if there's college students out there and they're just trying to shortcut their work and learning and reading a book, like, I would discourage that. Don't do that. There's so much beauty and things to be found in the work it takes to learn and retain information for the long haul. But when it comes to entering in a prompt, right? If you need to get help with writing a marketing plan, you could say, hey, I have a product named Product A. Write a marketing plan for me. You could say that. You're going to get a pretty generic marketing plan, right? But let's say I wanted to break it down even more and say, hey, here's our target audience. Here is the target audience in list of priorities, 1 through 5. Here are existing or adjacent products we have, and here's how we market those things. And you put in some of that messaging. And then you start to get a little bit more nuanced and give it a little bit more context of your situation. You're going to get a more catered approach to what you're looking for. I was saying earlier that there's a little bit of a baseline of knowledge needed to approach it and I think get the maximum sort of value out of it from my perspective. If you know a little bit, or if you know a lot about your specific industry or field or topic that you're searching, I don't really think you're shortcutting yourself. I think that you're actually bringing that context to the chatbot and you're allowing it to do something that may have taken you hours to do. So that might be research, that might be aggregating a bunch of information that you have stored in a data set or in a Word document, right? You can plug it in and you can say, hey, here's my role in this scope of work here. Here's what I need to do in order to do this next thing. Can you help me do this one thing and do it in this way? That's going to really speed up and be really efficient with your time, I think. And you're not going to be shortcutting yourself when it comes to, learning and growing as an individual and as a professional. So really the idea and the heart of this video for me, as I was had been thinking about it for a few weeks, was how are you getting the most value out of your AI prompts or out of using these tools? To me, it's just another tool. It's not a replacement for you as a person and an individual. What we bring to the table is that experience, is that context, is that nuance to every situation that happens. Let's say that being a project manager is a pretty generalized term, right? That could mean many different things to many different people, but it's different from being a marketing project manager to an IT project manager to a engineering project manager. Like, there's a lot of different context or nuances within each of those roles. And so when I'm approaching ChatGPT and I'm only using a phrase like, I'm a project manager needing to do X, again, I'm going to get a pretty generic response. That might be pretty good. Maybe it gets me 50% of the way of where I was going, but it's going to take maybe a lot more work, tweaking that than it is to just do it yourself from scratch. So when approaching an AI tool, a lot of the times for me, a lot of work goes into even my prompt and how I want to write my things out. Whoever they are, the general, they say how good it is to write out your thoughts or journal your thoughts. And I think one of the benefits is it's probably for a mental health thing, but I think another sort of byproduct is you're being thoughtful about what happened in your day, and you're being clear about what you said. The written word, there's something about the clarity that you have to, how clear you have to be when you're giving a written word. You can't just throw all your thoughts out there on a piece of paper or on a Word document hoping people understand what you're saying. You have to write a sentence. You realize that doesn't sound very natural. Let me rewrite it. And it's the same thing with AI. Like, you can plug in a bunch of jumbled up words and not really try very hard, and it's going to do its best to understand what you're asking for. But if you're more thoughtful about what you're saying and what you're actually trying to get out of it, I think you're going to find you're going to get a lot more out of it. So this was just the thought that I had about, are you thinking about AI tools wrong? Are you thinking about ChatGPT wrong? Are you using it wrong? Because I think a lot of people probably are. But I will say, with the caveat, wrong in the sense of, how I think one should be using it. And this is just my preference. So maybe you are okay with just a general prompt and that's all you need. You just need to kickstart your thought process. Like, okay, that's fine. More power to you. I'm speaking specifically to the individual who wants to sort of level up their AI usage in the sense of like the quality of outputs they're getting from the tool. Again, think about the context in which you're in. Think about the scenarios, the stakeholders you're going to be talking to. If you're using it to write an email, it's different to write an email to one of your peers or somebody who reports to you than it is to write to an executive, right? An executive will probably like things a lot more concise, a lot more to the point, whereas your peers who are in the weeds of doing the work, they might like all the details. So if you just say, hey, rewrite this email or write an email response to this person, the tool doesn't know if this is an executive or a peer. They don't know that. They might give you all the details and you'll realize, oh, I don't need all the details. This is for an executive. But thinking about that context and telling it, there's a lot of times where I will tell it, hey, I need to write this to a VP. This is a person who likes things very straightforward. Give it to me in a bullet pointed approach, in list of priorities. Here are the priorities. And so that takes a lot of work for me to think about, well, what's a priority? What is this person like? Who is this person? That's not just me throwing something in a tool and then it does it for me and it just saves me millions of hours. Like it takes a lot of thoughtfulness, and then I have to proofread what it said and then copy edit what it said and still deliver the message to that person. So those are a few different use cases. My thoughts were a little bit jumbled, but I wanted to get this message out there just because I feel like there's so much more value that I think that's being left on the table if you're using ChatGPT, especially as a professional. If you're really trying to level up and you really want to maximize the tool, I think you should really just start, evolving your framework to thinking about as if you're talking to a person. A general question may get a general response. A more nuanced, specific question is going to get more of a nuanced, specific answer from a person you talk to or a person you get to know. So if you want to keep it generic and surface level, by all means, continue to do that or do that. But if you want to start getting a little bit more of a nuanced or contextual output from a tool, I would encourage you to maybe start being a little bit more thoughtful about what you're asking, understanding you have experience that you're bringing to the table, you have insight you're bringing to the table, so that you can go on and work on some of the other things that the chatbot can't do for you. So yeah, let me know in the comments below your experience with ChatGPT or any other AI tool, or what AI tool do you use. Those are generally the ones I use, which is ChatGPT. I haven't really used Claude a lot. I use Perplexity when I want it to give me some sources of topics I'm looking up. I used Gemini in the past. I don't really use it as much now, but yeah, let me know with your experience. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or what about this was helpful or unhelpful or unclear. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel here. As I said at the beginning of the video, my name is Ryan Holguin. I am a project management professional. This is The Practical Place, and I will see you in the next video.